You're listening to Our Space with Matt Batiste.
Hey, just a reminder that sharing the podcast, subscribing, following, it goes a long way, not just for me and the show, but also for the artists that we talk to here, because as the podcast grows, so do the artists we chat with. And that's what the show's about. It's about growing the scene. So we like to remember and jam out to the songs that we've loved since we were kids. And a big part of that is also finding awesome new bands to keep this thing that we love alive. So thank you so much to everybody that has liked the show, clicked follow, subscribed to it. And today's guest has Charlie Sheen on speed dial. I'm joined by Drew from Felicity. Thanks for coming on the show.
What's up, Matt? Good to be here on Our Space. I had a MySpace, so this is awesome. It's great to be with the like-minded individuals who actually were around, for that era. Like I was right at the end of it there, to where it's like I was so excited. I had my MySpace up, and they were like, "Nah, man, it's Facebook now. Get off that thing."
I remember that, and I swear to you, I was on MySpace from the early days because a cousin of mine was dating this girl that was in a band. She played in the ska band, and she's like, "You got to check us out on MySpace." So me and my cousin were 12 years old, and we're like, "What is MySpace?" Mm-hmm. We make this account, and our minds were just blown. I'm like sending messages to bands like Jimmy Eat World, and I'm like, This is the coolest thing in the world, right? Yeah. Especially as a 12-year-old. And then when things kind of happened towards the end of high school with Facebook coming in and being a big thing, I was one of those people that was like, Facebook, like that's not going to catch on. Like MySpace is way better. And then it was just 5 minutes later, Facebook completely took over and MySpace was like shutting down, I swear.
Exactly. That's the way it was. And that's the way it works. It's quickly out with things. And then I remember the same thing. Like I've seen it now. We've seen it with like Instagram, where it's like, "Oh, you should get Instagram." You're like, "Nah, I'm good. Facebook is my jam." And then now I'm like, I literally do not even log into Facebook unless I absolutely have to. It's like, I don't want to see my like aunt and uncle just argue about politics or something. And now
that's what Facebook has become.
And then now I'm just like I do still love Instagram, but like I find myself probably more on TikTok now. But there was a while where I was like resistant to that too. And God, I don't even know there's gonna be something. There has to be something after this, right? There has to be eventually.
The funny thing is I feel like that's the real telltale sign as to getting old in today's day in technological society, because it becomes the next platform is going to come out, and we're probably going to be like, "Oh yeah, it feels like it's a kid's app. I'm not going to go onto it." And that's what TikTok was, right? It was like, "Oh, this is a kid's app. Like I'm not going on it to see kids dancing." And you refused it. And then the pandemic happened, and there was this shift, and all the millennials kind of went on to it. And now it's an everybody app, right? And then the next thing's going to come out, and we're going to be hesitant to join it. And then it's, it's a kid's app. And then what happens is the older people go onto the app and it gets ruined, right? The boomers ruined Facebook for us. It's just the evolution of the way things are.
100%. No, you're probably right.
But I am really curious to know where things are going to go after TikTok, because TikTok really is the hottest platform right now. And I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to shift, because everything feels like it's already been done. Like what else is there to capitalize on, right? Like you've got YouTube for long form, TikTok for short form, Instagram for photos and those videos. It's kind of that Friends app. Like what else is there going to be?
Yeah, and it's weird because TikTok and like Instagram had to like kind of like really hybrid themselves, because at the beginning it was just like, oh, it's a place you just post. It was almost like a photography app, but for everybody. Like everybody could kind of like have their experience to feel like a photographer, like artsy and creativity. And then it became something completely else. It became a social platform, social network. And then when Facebook bought it, they created it, like turned it into a social network. And TikTok was originally seemed like it was for content creation. And now it seems like that's a social network too, where you chat and you send funny memes to your friends, and you people just go on and might rant about their day, which you used to just do by typing on your Facebook story timeline. But now you just do it in a short form video content. And if you go viral, great, but you may just do it to express yourself and your friends see it, right? And that's what Instagram became and what TikTok's become. And now Instagram has had to like almost just kind of model themselves and just copy what TikTok did try to compete, and that's what's kept them alive for sure. And like
that sort of seems to be Zuckerberg's MO, right? Just kind of rip everyone else off.
Yeah.
They did it with Snapchat with stories and TikTok with reels, which, that's just sort of the way that things go when it comes to social media. The cool thing is being connected to people. And I really like that at least now everybody sort of has that chance to go viral. It's easier. Yeah. So, with that being said, there's just more chance to discover new people and new artists. I think that's the coolest thing. I think with TikTok, it's really almost become the next MySpace style platform where artists can go onto it, post their music, and there's a chance of people discovering their music and going viral and blowing up. And I mean, you guys have done a really good job at making content around your songs and making content with your songs and getting discovered on a platform like TikTok the same way that bands were doing it back in the day on MySpace. So how much of your, I guess, plan throughout the week goes into planning content for social media?
It's part of our week every week. Usually we meet up twice. Our band, just our schedules, we meet up usually twice a week. And depending on what we have going on, we try to have one of those meetups be based around like making content or planning content. And then like the next day would be either filming that. Now, if we have a bunch of shows coming up, we have to obviously use some of that time for rehearsals. The days we do film, we try to batch as much as we can. And if we go into like, if you've ever been on our TikTok, maybe you'll see us going into like Lowe's or into a store or doing whatever it is we're doing. We'll try to like pack like multiple outfits. And what we'll do is we'll go into the bathrooms and we'll change. So it looks like this is filmed over like multiple days or whatever, but it was actually might be filmed all in the same day. And we'll do things like that to try to just work smarter, not harder, because like we're still at the point as a band where we still have full-time jobs just like everybody else. And this is still a massive, we treat it like a full-time job, but it's still a passion project at this point. So that's the way we kind of get around that. And, but yeah, so it's a big part of it, I would say. And then every day, like you said, you got to try to post at least something. And we found that there's been times where we were posting 5 times a day because that's what we thought we had to do. And now we find that like if you post one good, unique piece of content, I'm sure you found this probably too, one good, unique, original piece of content is probably will do the trick. Is like probably all you need to do now, which is such an easier thing for us because we used to post 5 times a day. And it was stressful.
I think when people recommend posting like 3 to 5 times a day, it's really to sort of help get your account discovered. And then once you've kind of built that following and those people who know you, who you are, you can really scale it back into once a day. And then that kind of helps. But when you're getting started, posting that to get discovered definitely really helps. And you guys have built that following. With that being said, doing the outfit changes and going into different places like Lowe's or Walmart, have you ever been kicked out mid filming?
Oh yeah, all the time. That's kind of like, we hope we almost do at this point because that just makes the content better when we get kicked out, and it adds to the lore. We're all about the lore. We're actually really bummed because like our whole thing as a band is we love long-term storytelling. We love when like people have been with us for years and they can follow the lore of the Felicity storylines that have been going on and our battles with the assistant manager of Lowe's or whatever it's been. We've had storylines that have been going on in the band for years. We all grew up like obsessed with things like Tim and Eric and Adult Swim and the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the McPoyle families has been tormenting the cast of It's Always Sunny for like 15 years now. And they may disappear for 3 seasons, but then they pop up like in season 15 or something like that. So we love stuff like that. And it's unfortunate that TikTok really doesn't reward that type of storytelling, because if we go viral today, 90% of the people have no idea who we are. So that's what we do. We get kicked out a lot, and I feel like that just makes the content better. But lately, like really, people just expect it. If they see us causing a nuisance, the employees are just like, whatever, it's another bunch of people.
It's these guys again. You're known over there.
Yeah.
Speaking of lore, are you guys bringing back your election bit with it being an election year?
I don't know. I think we should. That was great. It's unfortunate, like that whole saga when we played it out, when we did it, because we put a lot of effort into that, and I was promoting a song at the time. we actually we weren't really super into TikTok. TikTok, I think it was 2021. So TikTok was kind of like, oh, it's for kids to dance. And so we were like, is our fan base really there? At that point, we were kind of more on Instagram. And Instagram didn't even have Reels at that point. So that story played out mostly on like Instagram posts.
It was ahead of its time.
It's hard to say, like, it's hard to think that, but like Instagram posts back then would only go out to a segment of your followers. You couldn't go viral. And even then, it's just like your Instagram post today. Like, you can have 10,000 followers. It doesn't mean that 10,000 people are going to see your Instagram post. And back then, you would really actually get like punished for posting videos to your Instagram post. It was like not like it is today, where they like are prioritizing video. Like Instagram back then, Instagram was heavily prioritizing pictures. But that content, we love that stuff, and that's part of our long term. A lot of that was part of our long term storytelling. So I think that's a great idea. I think maybe we need to name a new leader of Felicity, and we have a new drummer since then. So I think getting him involved would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's one of those pieces of lore that definitely needs to come back. And it's once every 4 years, so It's not like you really need to. It's the people who've been around for long enough that have seen it and know. You're rewarding the long-term fans with something like that, which I think is really cool. And it's kind of crazy to think what you just said about Instagram changing and the videos from back then and no Reels like that. Doesn't seem like it was very long ago, but also the platform was just very different long ago. And the way that we consume things was so different from, that little bit of time.
It really
ago.
is. Yeah, it's crazy.
Going back to the big box stores, though, have you ever had any crazy encounters with like, a manager or someone else in the store that maybe's, yelled at you for playing your songs in the store or anything like that?
We've just been like, it's usually just being asked to leave. Like that's really the extent of it. Like some different degrees of rudeness in the way we've been asked to leave. And once we get to that point, we're just hoping we're still filming so we can get the interaction, but nothing too crazy as far as that goes. Cause we're not ever trying to be overly disrespectful just because of the type of guys we are. We don't ever want to be like the type of like YouTubers who are like, we love watching that type of stuff. The guys who are like going over the top, like Zach Crazy or those types of guys, or the old school like Logan Paul, Jake Paul type stuff, like the actual like pranksters. But at the end of the day, we still want it to be about the music. But definitely been asked to leave, and we also don't want to like truly inconvenience the people or bother the people who are shopping or the employees. But I feel like you can get away with a happy balance of filming content, being lighthearted about it, having a good time, and also if you get asked to leave, then we just leave and we come back at another time. But there is a few stores in Orlando at this point that we've done it enough that we are banned and not allowed to come back. And we wear that as a badge of honor that we've been banned from Target and Lowe's. But the great thing about being in Orlando, Florida, is there's multiple locations. So just like this one location we're banned at, this one location, there's other ones, and we can always just pop over to the next town over and go to their Lowe's or Target if we want to.
Yeah, Orlando's a big city with a lot of those big box stores, exactly. So you can definitely just move on over to the next one.
Awesome. When we go on tour, it's just like, hey, the world's our playground now. So,
have you ever tried doing anything at Disney, or is that just like a little too risky with their rules?
We love Disney so much. We're terrified of because they will ban you. Like I know people have gotten banned for Disney for like way less than what we've gotten kicked out of Lowe's for. So we're terrified of that. And we have so many friends and like some of our family members in the band like work there. So we definitely don't want to like rock the boat, because if we like got our annual passes taken away, we'd be like, oh no, we live in Orlando. We can't risk that. So
so where the line is. Disney's the line, and you know that they'll sue you too.
Yeah. We leave the theme parks alone because we don't want to risk not being allowed to go.
I got banned from Universal Studios for a year when I went when I was in college.
See, that would be my worst fear ever. We have annual passes to all these because if you live in Orlando, that's the move, So.
For me, though, I was like, I'm not going to be back for another year, so it's fine. Ban me for a year. I'll see you next year.
Plus, in Universal, there's the Hard Rock Hard Rock venue, and at Disney, on Disney property, and these are on the park property, there's Hard Rock, so we just saw Neck Deep there, and at Disney there's the House of Blues. So like every band we would ever want to see is going to basically one at that venue or the other venue. So
you don't want to get kicked out of those venues where you want to see your favorite band.
Yeah, or potentially want to play someday, with God willing. So, and not being able to go to any of those shows would absolutely suck too. So,
yeah, that's crazy how the mouse owns an entire city.
And it's crazy that like the House of Blues, if you're like certain bands, just because it's on Disney property, or like you can be like not Disney approved, like Ice Nine Kills can never play House of Blues, that specific House of Blues, because of just the thematic elements of their band. So if they go on tour and it routes whatever band, let's say they're on tour with Avenged Sevenfold and it routes through House of Blues Disney, like they specifically cannot play that show. But the rest of the bands can, but they cannot. So it's a lot of, it happens all the time. It'll be like, this band is actually not playing that night because Disney was like, nope, you're not Disney approved to play on our property.
That is wild to me. Like, that is absolutely insane. And it's like, you can't just find another venue. Are there any other venues within Orlando that they could just play at that the mouse doesn't own?
So usually what happens there is like that band. So in that case, what happened was Ice Nine Kills, that last time that happened, this was a few years ago before, like it wasn't this Ice Nine Kills now would just probably play a headline show, like could probably headline whatever show. But at that point, I forget who they were supporting, but it was they were supporting and the headliner was playing House of Blues. And Ice Nine Kills just did their own headline show at like a 350 cap room, and it sold out in like a millisecond, and the tour flyer was like them killing Mickey Mouse. It was awesome. They just completely leaned into it, and that's usually what those bands do, is they'll just book their own headline show at one of the other venues in Orlando that same day because they can't play the show that they're originally supposed to play.
Yeah, that's wild. Going back to the whole content and creating content thing and using your songs as content. Now, you were a part of the emo trash song, and that was incredibly viral as well. But I noticed that one kind of got a lot of heat and a lot of hate. And I mean, I have to ask about that. Like, what was that like? What are your thoughts on sort of that song and that song getting the reaction it did?
Honestly, it was one of those times where when we wrote the song, we specifically wanted it to be a song that would go viral. There was a handful of things. When we wrote the song, we were like, hey, let's write a song that is a throwback to every emo pop punk song, old school pop punk song that we've ever loved, that specifically uses song titles and band names and lyrics of every single pop punk and emo song that we've ever loved. And that is incredibly divisive, that like people will either love or hate because that's what goes viral. Like people, either things go viral because people hate it or things go viral because they love it. And usually if people love something, there's an equal amount of people who hate something. Just look at Machine Gun Kelly, or look at Justin Bieber, or just look at, Backstreet Boys or whatever it is.
Well, that's how you're doing something right too.
Exactly. And so when we got the song, we were like, I think we have something. I think we have something. To the point we were so confident we got emo trash tattoos. So we're like, we're doubling down. This is going to be something. We believed in it so much. And so we started posting it on TikTok, and it was doing okay. Like, people really were enjoying it. Like, we had no hate on TikTok, really, because just like you said, like, TikTok does a good job at kind of like navigating their people, and they were putting it in front of the elder emos who love Simple Plan, and they love Good Charlotte, and they love My Chemical Romance, and they were all like, this is awesome. But it got in front of someone who didn't like it, and they put it on Twitter, and Twitter or X, whatever we want to call it these days. That's a different platform. That platform is, the First Amendment is very, very, very active on that platform. And so they put the video, they took the TikTok and they put it on X, and they said, this is the worst thing I've ever heard. And that went mega viral. I think it had 5 million views in a day. and it got reposted or retweeted, whatever you want to call it, I think like 5,000 times. And some of those retweets, if you go to like those posts, some of those had millions of views. So we tried just like adding it up, and we think it had like 10 million views over the course of like a couple days. And a lot of it was negative. It was like getting in front of the opposite demographic, like the demographic of people who don't like it, because this platform is putting it in front of the people who like it, and this platform, because of the way it was portrayed, was specifically putting it in front of the other demographics. So it's just crazy how two platforms' algorithms, one can specifically guide it to people who will like it, and one can specifically, because of the way it's portrayed, can guide it to people who won't like it. But at the end of the day, like, it went so viral, like everyone saw it, like everyone in the industry, especially because like our industry, like our niche, the whole like emo, pop punk, alternative, Warped Tour, like that niche is actually relatively small. It seems
very
massive,
small,
but it's not. But like everybody saw it overnight. Like I would be going out to bars and people would be like, "You're in Felicity, right?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, I saw what happened on Twitter. I'm sorry, man." I'm like, "Don't be sorry." Like, I mean, I've been in bands for a long time. This is not my first band I've been in. And most people in bands, like if you've ever been in a band, like most of the time, like people just don't care. You put out a song and people just don't care. And people cared one way or the other. And we had more exposure to the song and than we've ever had. And people knew our name. And because of that, we're getting tour opportunities. Because of that, we have more monthly listeners on Spotify than we've ever had. And people do genuinely love the song. And when we really sit down and looked at it, we were like, hey guys, this is going to be a tough couple days because of the hate. But we really did the math. It was like if 10 million people viewed it and 5,000 people had negative comments, if we actually do the math, that's like 0.05% of the people said something negative about it. And when you like something, like me on TikTok, if I like something, I'm probably not even going to comment on it. I'm probably going to go listen to the song on Spotify. But if people hate something, then they're the people who speak the loudest normally. If I like something, I'm like, that was a good song. I might go stream it. And I just scroll. I don't go out of my way to be like, that's the best thing ever, right? That's what most people do. So
I feel like when it comes to going viral, the way that emo trash did, like, because the emo trash was like mega viral, like you said, millions and millions and millions stacked of views and publicity and all of that. There's always that sort of algorithm that TikTok will put it out to people where it, like you said, predicts who's going to like this and it's going to put it in front of them. The algorithm does a really good job of that. So say it'll kind of it'll put your video in front of 5 million people that will like the video. So you get that 5 million, and then there's like a line in the sand. Once it crosses there, now it's so viral. It's starting to show it to the people that don't like it because it, like you said, got into the wrong person's hand. And then that's when it really becomes mega viral. You made a really good point because a lot of people want to be heard when they don't like something. But at the end of the day, I mean, you actually listen to the song. It's a good song. And like you said, there's a lot of throwbacks to a lot of things. And I think because you guys use the word emo in it and calling yourself emo trash in the song, people expect it to be like an emo song. So it's like, oh, like I like emo and this song's called emo trash, but it's not an emo song. It's like that fun pop punk song. There could be like, it's easy for it to sort of get portrayed. So
exactly
understood. But I love the fact that you guys leaned into it. You got the tattoos, like, it's gotten you the right exposure. You guys have embraced it. And so I absolutely love to hear that you embraced it and you're not kind of like, fuck, we did this and now we kind of have to stick by it. And, the hate really bogged us down, because that can be the case for a lot of creators. Seeing that hate can really get to them.
Yeah, we just leaned into it. We tried to reply to everything. And I think the thing that we are proud of the most is how, like, the feedback we got of how we handled it was that people were like, the humility we had where we replied to everybody and we didn't ever like clap back. If we clap back, we tried to do it like funny and calling people the emo, okay, emo police. And then they're like, this is like, they're like, your band's not emo. And then we would put up a picture of us when we opened for the U's and we're like, oh yeah, well, we're more emo than you. So
you guys have collaborated with a lot of people on a lot of different songs, including Calling All Captains. I had them on the show. They're another hilarious band.
They're awesome.
You guys are one of the funniest bands online and that great sense of humor. Do you have any favorite sort of other bands or collabs that you've worked with so far? Because you have a lot of songs with other bands.
Yeah, we just started doing collabs this year. Our goal is to we want to collab with as many artists as we can. We feel like that's kind of like the rock industry is just kind of recently becoming hip to that. I feel like I feel like rock is always kind of like behind the times. And that's okay. It just is what it is. But like you think about like hip hop music, like, Kanye West and Jay-Z released a co-album together in like 2010, and now just like rock bands are finally starting to do stuff like that this year, or like in the last couple of years. But we want to collaborate with as many bands as we can, because I feel like all ships rise together when you do that, and it exposes fans to just different artists, and it provides like songwriting with other artists. You come up with ideas you might not come up with. It's only going to make the songs better, and just kind of creates this web of people discovering the scene. And it's like going to Warped Tour when you might discover 20 bands. Like, we don't really have that opportunity anymore. Like, most kids these days are discovering music on Spotify or TikTok or whatever it is. So it's just kind of ingraining that, where it's like, if all these bands that like you think about our scene, if all these bands are releasing songs together, it's kind of that same type of vibe of going to Warped Tour, and you're watching that one stage, and you stay at that one stage and you see this band and this band and this band, we're all in the same scene together. Or you go to the Taste of Chaos tour, where it's like the 10 same bands in the same scene. If all those bands are collaborating on songs together these days, I feel like it's just going to make everyone rise together at the same time. So we went on tour with Calling All Captains in 2019 before COVID, when both our bands were kind of just starting to hit the ground, and we had so much fun with them and became such good brothers with them. And we reached out to them to do that song last year, and they were the first band we collaborated with. And Emo Trash was with our friend Grayson, who's here in Orlando. We did a song with this rap rock band called Discrepancies. So we wanted to do a new metal song, and that was so much fun to work with them. And then we just, because of all of those collabs, and because of the Emo Trash virality, we got to collab with Point North, which is like one of my favorite bands of all time. So,
which is amazing. And that's your latest song, Charlie Sheen, which I wanted to open up with that, but our conversation is kind of led. So I'll get to that now. With Charlie Sheen, what made you write the song? What's the story behind the song, and why Charlie Sheen?
So we wrote that song from scratch in the studio with Point North. We wanted to do a song. I think that's the best way to collaborate with another artist, is to just meet in the studio or somewhere, wherever you're writing, and just start from scratch, because then no one has like, oh, I brought this song, what do you think? Because then it's kind of like everyone's coming in with a clean slate, and it's really like a mind meld of all the artists. No one person's like bringing more to the table than someone else. So we kind of were just really starting to think about what we wanted to write about. And we were talking about, the song is kind of about self-destructive tendencies and overcoming them, and how kind of like with social media, everybody kind of has this kind of woe is me, like, oh, like my life is so terrible. And kind of just the vibe is like, I think everybody kind of feels that. And some people just express it more, but just kind of resonating that everyone has that feeling in some way or another. You either just hide it or you don't. And just about overcoming those self-destructive tendencies and just trying to be the best person you can be every single day. And so John, who's just a genius, John from Point North, the lead singer of Point North, he was like, what would be really cool and would help with maybe the virality of it, of like making the song successful, would be, because if we could think of a celebrity we could maybe call out and maybe even name the song after, who's had kind of a really rough go and had like a really like downfall, like is the example of all of these things, but never really had the like, woe is me, like never has like talked about, I've had such a bad time. And we just kept going back to Charlie Sheen. Like, he's the definition of, like,
he's the perfect. As you were saying it, I know my mind's already associating it with it because you've already come to that conclusion with the song already. But you were just describing Charlie Sheen as you were describing that.
Yeah. Like he was an A-list actor and then had this incredible downfall, but still became like on the most successful sitcom of all time, and then just had like another crazy downfall. And he's actually so we were like really researching him, and we like saw that like he's actually on this like really crazy like comeback trail right now, where he's really cleaned up his life, and he's like now an advocate of like self-help and an advocate of like mental health and anti-substance abuse, and he's really like about that. He's becoming, I think, will eventually become a poster child for like the opposite of what the person he used to be. And so we were like, this is like, I think the perfect, and it helps that like it's easy to rhyme a lot of things with Charlie Sheen, like just like some things it's really hard to rhyme with, like, you know, it's so it all like was just like perfect. And I think it's just someone that everyone knows who he is. Like it's harder if it's like a more obscure person. So we were just like, this is a risk, but you know, the biggest risks usually have the biggest payoffs. And so that's kind of how that all came about.
That's awesome. Were you a big 2.5 Men fan?
I was not the biggest fan of the show, but I've seen it, obviously. I mean, who hasn't? But none of us were the biggest fan of that, but we're big fans of Charlie Sheen for sure. Like, we've seen all of his movies, and I used to watch him on Spin City when he took over from Michael J. Fox. Now people that remember that era, but when Spin City used to be syndicated and Michael J. Fox left because he had Parkinson's disease, Charlie Sheen took over for the last handful of seasons as the lead on that. But I've seen plenty of 2.5 Men.
With the latest viral videos and video series that you've been doing around Charlie Sheen, you know, there was sort of that climactic build up to getting him on the phone. I need to know the secret. Was that actually him?
Okay. So I'll give the full expose. So we never expected any of this to come to fruition. So here's the full story. We were sitting down and we're like, we need to find a way to make content to promote the song. And we're coming up with ideas, We're like, what if we just try to get Charlie Sheen's phone number? And the saga is just us trying to get Charlie Sheen's phone number. And we actually just start calling looking up if we can find his agent's phone number, his publicist's phone number. We just film it and we just see what happens. And they'll just hang up on us. But like, that'll be funny, just like us calling. And we'll be super direct and we'll just ask for his phone number. We won't say like anything else. We'll just be like, hey, can we have his phone number? And we won't ask like, can we schedule a meeting, or like, can we work with you? It was just be like, can we have his phone number? And so we're like, that'll be funny. Let's do it. So immediately we're just looked it up, and you're able to find like the numbers of agents and the companies at least. So we found, I think it was his agent or something. And so we called the business number that was listed online, and we just filmed it. And the first one we did, we got way further than we ever expected. And that was like really weird. And we got like, she was like willing to work with us. She was like, I'll show him the song and I'll give me your phone number. And we got in touch with our agent. And so we're like, okay, well, like this is now like something, but we have to film a series of videos in case this goes nowhere. So we ended up getting pretty far down the rabbit hole where our manager was actually talking to his manager and all that stuff. And we're like, okay, but like now we're kind of stuck because this is actually happening, but like
this is working and we were that wasn't the plan.
And this is going super viral. Like this is going insanely viral and everyone wants to know what's going to happen. So what we did was we started talking to our friends and girlfriends and best friends, and we're like, all right, you need to pretend to be Charlie Sheen's like publicist or blah, blah, blah. And this is what we need you to do. And so like the videos after the first video were like our friends and people in our circle
just hanging up on you, telling you to get lost.
That's what we expected to happen. But the first one was so genuine, and we were like, we don't want to blow potentially working with him by just annoying every person in his network. So from then on, it was not real. but we had to finish the storyline because there were so many people, and we had to promote the song, and we needed content. So that being said, when we were able to get we actually got a quote from Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen heard the song. Charlie Sheen watched all the content. He loved it. And we asked him, to be in content. He's just not like that. Potentially may happen. It's just Hollywood moves really slow is what we're realizing. And we had like 1 week to figure out what to do next. And it already we already got way further than what we expected to almost immediately. So we just had to kind of do what we had to do to try to finish the storyline. So
that's amazing. And you actually got him to hear the song and give a quote. So that's real. And the video of him talking on the phone, was that real or was that a friend?
That was a friend.
That was a friend. Because I was like, that doesn't sound like Charlie Sheen. So it's cool that you did actually get in touch with him. You actually did talk to him. But the video was, a friend. It was staged. But like, that doesn't matter because you know what?
Is what he would have said.
Yes.
Yes.
So that part's real.
That is real. It's just not actually him saying it. Is what it is. So that's why we were like, we are finishing the storyline. We are just not finishing it with actually him because, it's Charlie Sheen.
It's Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen is literally Charlie Sheen. You can't just get him to be like, yeah, I'll be in your little TikTok. And plus, if we're gonna get him in a piece of content, we're gonna wait till maybe we can do a music video and have him in it because that's also on the table. So we don't want to be like, oh, we're just going to settle with you potentially calling.
Yeah, and then it's over and whatever. Well, dude, I got my fingers crossed.
Goodbye,
We got to get him in a music video for you. We got to get him to film a bunch of TikToks and Reels for you guys because even if that happens a year down the road, the song is still the song. You can just promote it hey, guys, I know it took a year, but look, we got Charlie Sheen, that's huge.
Exactly. So it was the day the song was released, and we had to kind of finish the storyline, and now we're just promoting the song and whatnot. So we'll see what happens from here. But like I said, it takes a while to get a response, especially when you're just little Felicity here in Orlando, Florida, and he's Charlie Sheen. You're dealing with his actual managers and agents and publicists and people who have a million probably things come across their table every single day.
That's so exciting. Well, what other exciting things do you have planned for this year? Tours, albums, anything else? What's going on?
We're going to be releasing new music every 6 weeks is our goal. So we have a lot of new music. We've been working on new music since 2021. We've been recording music. So we've released several songs already in the last, I'd say, 6 months. We plan on just continuing to release music very, very, very regularly. We are going on tour next month, March 22nd to the end of the month. So we're going on about a little over a week tour. We're going to be on tour with one of my favorite bands of all time, Between You and Me, one of the most underrated pop punk bands of all time. If you don't listen to Between You and Me, you're doing yourself a disservice if you love pop punk music. But also Young Culture and Home Safe are going to be on that tour. So we're going to be playing a bunch of dates with them. And then we are going to be playing So What Fest in June in Dallas, Texas, which is one of the biggest. If you love Warped Tour, this is the closest thing you can get to Warped Tour, maybe other than when we were young. So What Fest is amazing. So check out So What Fest this year. We're going to be playing that. And so those are the big shows we're going to announce. And then we're working on some more tours coming up that just aren't announced yet. So if we're not coming to your city immediately, just keep an eye out because we've got a lot more stuff coming along the way.
Really excited for you. You guys have a huge year, of course, planned with new music and tours, and very exciting. Can't wait to see what happens with Charlie Sheen as well. But also, I do want to know any other up and coming artists or bands that you've really been listening to that you feel deserve a shout out.
Yes. My cat is going crazy right now. I've been listening to the band Avoid a ton. Avoid is awesome. They are a killer band. I recommend everybody check them out. Here in Orlando, Florida, I feel like we have just an insane scene of bands. So here in Orlando, Florida, I'm going to shout out all the local homies. So I'm going to shout out the band Magnolia Park. Definitely check out them. Check out the band 408. Check out the band Dark Divine for some spooky metalcore. Check out the band Out of Time. Check out Grace and Zane. Check out Meet Me at the Altar. and check out Capstan. Those are all some amazing, amazing bands from just right here. Something going on in the water in this city. Those are some amazing local bands here in Orlando.
I love that it's all the local bands. I love that so much. I love seeing people support their local friends and family members in the scene and grow in their local scene. Orlando definitely has a great scene, and you named a ton of amazing bands. So go and check out all of those bands, of course. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a blast.
Thank you for listening to Our Space with Matt Batiste. If you enjoyed yourself, please support the show by subscribing and leaving a review.